Chapter 81. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yi Tian could clearly assess Yun Feng's abilities, name, Yun Feng, cultivation talent, extraordinary, wind blade talent, top tier, speed talent, intermediate. Rumor had it that Yun Feng initially had a basic speed talent. The upgrade to intermediate might seem like a small step, but the actual difference was significant. A basic speed talent only triples speed, while an intermediate talent multiplies it by 5, to illustrate, if Yun Feng's base speed was 5 times the speed of sound, a basic talent would take him to 15 times the speed of sound, while an intermediate talent would reach 25 times, that's a huge difference. Yun Feng really lucked out, Yi Tian muttered. Not only did he boost his cultivation talent to transcendent in the secret realm, but he also upgraded his speed talent. With intermediate speed, no one can even touch him, and his top-tier wind blade talent can wipe out most of those great martial artists instantly. Of course, the Hellion family's group of 20-odd people included some real powerhouses. Hellion Bai, for example, possessed 3 special talents: intermediate clairvoyance, basic speed, and advanced earth spear. Hellion Bai was undeniably strong, second only to a combat prodigy like Yun Feng. Yi Tian quickly lost interest in the battle, as the outcome was already obvious. Instead, he focused his spatial perception underground, searching for the vitality stone veins. Suddenly, a massive, ferocious beast appeared within Yi Tian's spatial range. It was 420 meters below ground, well within range of his copying talent, species, pangolin, bloodline talent, top tier, defense talent, intermediate, earth burrowing talent, intermediate, strength talent, intermediate. This beast is incredible! Yi Tian exclaimed. It has 3 special talents, plus earth burrowing. In an underground fight, even a much stronger warrior might lose. Yi Tian finally understood why Hellion Bai hadn't claimed the Yuan Qi stones in the past decade. He simply couldn't defeat this underground pangolin. Those warriors are guarding the entrance to the underground passage, the one they dug. If I dig another one, it'll take too long, and the noise will definitely alert them. Direct teleportation was also out of the question, since it required a clear line of sight, and teleporting to their entrance would be a sure way to get caught. Teleporting through solid earth was equally impossible. Maybe if Yi Tian's spatial talent were more advanced, he could pull it off, but not in its current state. Yi Tian racked his brain but couldn't come up with a solution. Xiaozi, do you know of any other routes to the Yuan Qi stone vein? Yi Tian gently patted Xiaozi's backside and asked. Pervert. Xiaozi protested, then obediently replied, I know of another passage, one that the pangolin made. It doesn't stay underground all the time. Sometimes it comes up to hunt other beasts for food. That's where I found it. Perfect timing. Yi Tian suspected Xiaozi was after the Yuan Qi stones herself, which explained why she was so keen on finding alternative routes. Of course, her strength was no match for the earth pangolin, so she hadn't succeeded. Where is it? Yi Tian asked. Xiaozi pointed in the distance. After understanding her directions, Yi Tian teleported there immediately. Yi Tian's teleportation range was 1,000 meters, and he could double that using a spatial marker. The 1,000-meter range was already beyond the spiritual detection of those martial artists. Combined with Yi Tian's rapid teleportation, no one noticed his movements. Soon, Yi Tian arrived at the spot Xiaozi indicated. It was a small lake. Master, there's a passage under this lake that leads to an underground space. From there, you can access the pangolin's tunnel. Xiaozi didn't even need to say anything, as Yi Tian had already sensed it. Wow, this pangolin can really dig, Yi Tian exclaimed. It dug all the way to the lake. If it weren't for Xiaozi, even with my spatial perception, I'd never have found this place. Yi Tian took Xiaozi into the lake and followed the underwater tunnel to a small underground space. There, he found several tunnels leading in all directions, like an underground maze, but this maze was no match for Yi Tian's spatial perception. Let's go. Yi Tian followed Xiaozi, slowly approaching the Yuan Qi stone vein. The concentration of vitality is much higher, Yi Tian suddenly sensed. The Yuan Qi stone vein must be close. There's a vitality stone. Yi Tian approached a tunnel and spotted a Yuan Qi stone in the wall. The stone was pure white and radiated an incredibly rich vitality. How much vitality had to accumulate in this stone? No wonder they're so valuable. Yi Tian carefully dug out the Yuan Qi stone, trying not to alert the fierce beast. The rock was surprisingly dense, changed by the nourishing vitality. An ordinary person wouldn't even be able to chip off a piece. Click. With a soft sound, Yi Tian successfully extracted the first Yuan Qi stone and stored it in his portable space. Keep looking. Soon, Yi Tian found over 10 Yuan Qi stones, extracting them and adding them to his collection. The battle's almost over. Yi Tian's spatial perception gave him a view of the surface. Yun Feng, unleashing his full power, was systematically taking down the Hellion family. They couldn't stop him. The Hellion family had already lost more than a dozen members. Once the Hellion family is gone, Yun Feng will definitely come after the Yuan Qi stone vein. Let him tangle with the pangolin while I quickly extract the stones, without him knowing a thing. With this plan in mind, Yi Tian smiled. He did have another option: eliminate everyone, including Yun Feng, and claim the entire Yuan Qi stone vein for himself. But he wouldn't do it. He didn't believe in killing. It was against his principles. 11 pieces. 12 pieces. 13 pieces. 20 pieces. Yi Tian was ecstatic, digging up Yuan Qi stones without attracting attention, except for Xiao Zi. Above ground, Yun Feng sustained some minor injuries. The great martial artists of the Hellion family all had some tricks up their sleeves, or formidable weapons. Eliminating them without taking any damage was impossible. With Yun Feng's intermediate speed, the Hellion family had no chance of escape. 10 minutes passed, only one person remained on the battlefield: Hellion Bai. Chapter 82. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ha! Didn't think I'd underestimated you. Your speed's leveled up, huh? I can't believe it. Hellion Bai coughed up blood, a mix of laughter and frustration. Die! With a flick of his wrist, Yun Feng sent a wind blade slicing through Hellion Bai's chest, ending his life before he could utter another word. The strike finished off the already badly wounded Hellion Bai. Lucky I found that wind spirit grass. Boosting my speed to medium made all the difference. Otherwise, I'd be in serious trouble, if not dead, after being ambushed by those martial artists. Yun Feng exclaimed, relieved. Excitement bubbled up as he eagerly snatched the storage bags from the fallen foes. With so many bags, especially Hellion Bai's, there were bound to be treasures inside. The potential value was off the charts. He was just a minor talent from the Yun family. While he excelled in combat, the family hadn't invested much in him. He had to rely on his own wits to find resources, but now, his cultivation talent had reached an exceptional level, making him a top prospect in the Demon Sea base. Plus, with this influx of resources, he wouldn't have to worry about his future training. And this vitality stone vein. Yun Feng's eyes gleamed. These veins were the real prize. Once he took down the beast guarding them, the whole deposit would be his. These vitality stones were the ultimate jackpot. Gotta heal up first. The vitality stones aren't going anywhere. Once I'm patched up, I'll go deal with that beast. Yun Feng decided. It took him about half an hour to fully recover his strength and Yuan force. He was back to peak condition. Rumble. He stepped into the entryway, descending into the underground. A fight was brewing. While Yun Feng braced for battle with the earth pangolin, Yi Tian had already mined 200 vitality stones. Heh, you guys go at it. When you're done, most of the stones will be in my pocket. Yi Tian chuckled. According to his spatial sense, the pangolin had already eaten a good chunk of the stones. Besides, it was just a small vein to begin with. Not a lot of stones left. He figured there were only about 3,000 stones left, a far cry from what was here 10 years ago. Still, for Yi Tian, 3,000 stones was an unimaginable fortune. Right now, Yun Feng and the pangolin were locked in combat, and the noise was enough to mask the sound of Yi Tian's mining. so long as he wasn't too reckless. Xiaozi, don't slack off. Get to digging. Yi Tian ordered. Master, I'm on it. Xiaozi eagerly nodded. Treasure hunting was its favorite thing in the world. It had been itching to get at the stones, but the pangolin had kept it away. Now, with its master's backing, it had nothing to fear. The two of them frantically began mining. For ordinary people, finding the stones could take a while, since they were scattered among worthless rocks, but Yi Tian could use his spatial perception to pinpoint their location through the rock, making the digging much faster. Of course, he wasn't going for the stones buried deep in the rock. He focused on the ones that were easier to reach. 300. 400. 500. Damn it. This beast's defense is too strong. My top-tier wind blade can't take it down in one hit, not unless I hit a weak spot. But it keeps escaping with that earth escape trick. Too hard to kill. Yunfeng scowled, but giving up wasn't an option. It already had him in its sights. Sneaking around to mine was out of the question. He'd have to kill it to get to the stones. I managed to hurt it. It must be pissed. I can lure it out. There's plenty of room to maneuver outside, and my wind blade will be more effective. Yunfeng thought, so he tried to draw the pangolin out, which worked perfectly for Yi Tian. He'd been worried about the pangolin spotting him, so he'd been mining at a distance. With the pangolin out of the picture, he could mine even faster. 600. 700. 800. Yi Tian ramped up his efforts, and the sound grew louder, eventually reaching the surface. Yunfeng, still fighting the pangolin, heard the noise underground. Faint, but he definitely heard it. What was that noise? That he didn't think much of it, though, and the pangolin didn't care about the stones. They didn't improve its strength, and it considered them just a snack. Eat too many, and it lost interest. The one it hated the most was Yunfeng, because Yunfeng had heard it. Even if it knew someone had broken in underground, it wanted to deal with Yunfeng first. It was a bit dim, not nearly as clever as Xiaozi or Xiaojin. If it were smarter, Yi Tian wouldn't have had such an easy time stealing the stones. Time passed, and the noise from below grew louder and louder. Yunfeng could even hear digging. It sounded like... Could someone be stealing the vitality stones? Yunfeng wondered. The thought spurred him into action. Time to use my trump card. He held up a bead, not just any bead. This was a formation bead, with a small phantom array engraved inside, a very precious treasure. Activating the bead would create a small illusion, but the bead would be used up in the process. A one-time deal, not particularly effective against skilled fighters, but perfect for fooling a simple-minded beast. Rumble. The bead activated, and the phantom array expanded, trapping the pangolin as it surfaced. Inside the illusion, the pangolin thought it had injured Yunfeng. Just as it puffed up with pride, its eyes began to sting, and its head swam. The next moment, it lost consciousness and collapsed. Yunfeng had seized the opportunity, using his wind blade to pierce the pangolin's eyes, shattering its brain. He looked at the now useless bead, a little sad, but he didn't have time to dwell on it. He needed to get down into that tunnel. Underground, in the tunnel, Yi Tian sensed what was happening above and sighed. Can't dig anymore. Didn't expect Yunfeng to have such a trick up his sleeve and finish off the pangolin so quickly. But it's okay. I already have almost 1,800 vitality stones, and Xiaozi's got a good haul too. There are still a lot of stones left, but they're mostly deep in the rock. And Yunfeng's bound to grab some of them. Shout. Yi Tian turned and fled, telling Xiaozi to hurry. The two of them hurried through the tunnel, crossed the underground lake, and made their escape. So far, Yunfeng was clueless about the man and beast who'd been stealing his treasure. Chapter 83. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dozens of miles away, Yi Tian and Xiaozi paused. It was time for Xiaozi to turn in the Yuan Qi stones. Alright, Xiaozi, where are the Yuan Qi stones? Yi Tian asked, a little reluctantly. Xiaozi opened its mouth and spat out a storage bag, the one Yi Tian had temporarily given it for the Yuan Qi stones. Yi Tian opened it and began to count. 412 vitality stones. Not bad, Yi Tian was pleased. Xiao Zi wasn't that strong, and the rock was solid, so digging out 412 yuan qi stones in such a short time wasn't easy for it. Good job. Once we're back, I'm clearing out this storage bag, and it's all yours. Yi Tian promised. Master, really? Xiao Zi was practically vibrating, not with fear, but excitement. It was the first time it had seen a storage bag, something that could easily store treasures. If it found more treasures, it could just stash them inside. So easy to carry. Before, even when it found lots of cool stuff, it couldn't take it because it was too small to carry everything. Now's my chance. Xiao Zi thought, its owner was awesome, promising it a storage bag as a reward. Master, I'll work even harder to find you more treasures, Xiao Zi vowed. Yi Tian smiled. He was just hoping Xiao Zi would find him more treasures in the secret realm. Then, when they got out, he could copy Xiao Zi's talent before long. He wouldn't need Xiao Zi then, of course, he wouldn't just toss Xiao Zi aside. He'd give it to his sister, Yi Yu. He figured Yi Yu would really like Xiao Zi. Let's go. Time to keep hunting for treasures, Yi Tian urged. Okay. Master, there's something good over there. Let's go get it, Xiao Zi, acting like a tiny bandit, excitedly led Yi Tian to more treasure locations. Meanwhile, after Yunfeng entered the Yuan Qi stone vein, he was stunned everywhere he looked in the tunnel. The rock face was riddled with small holes. It was obvious someone had been mining recently and had probably dug up a lot of Yuan Qi stones. Who's the thief who stole my vitality stones? Yunfeng was furious. He'd been fighting above ground, only to have his Yuan Qi stones secretly swiped from under his nose. It was depressing, but then he remembered he'd snagged all of Heliumbai's treasures and the others, which cheered him up a bit. The thief's probably run off. I've looked around and didn't find anyone, and there's no more digging sound. I doubt they could dig up that many vitality stones in such a short time. Most of them should still be here. So Yunfeng began mining himself, except he didn't have much time left, only 7 or 8 days, and he needed 2 days for the trip back. That left him only 5 or 6 days of actual mining. No matter what, he had to leave in 5 or 6 days, or he'd end up like Helion Wall, stuck in the secret realm for 10 years. Dig. 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 Yunfeng mined like a madman, but it took forever to dig up a single Yuan Qi stone, and the rock was badly damaged. Several mines collapsed. He spent 5 or 6 days straight mining, without rest. When the time was up, Yunfeng was covered in dust and looked haggard, but mostly he was disappointed. Damn it! Why did it take so long to dig up 500 vitality stones? Yunfeng was pissed. He'd heard that Yuan Qi stone veins usually held 10,000 stones, even the small ones. The big ones had hundreds of thousands. But those were just rumors, except, there was a record from the last time a Yuan Qi stone vein was discovered. They dug up 10,000 Yuan Qi stones. How did he only get 500? That's a huge difference. That thief probably couldn't have dug up too many Yuan Qi stones in such a short time, maybe 100, tops. And I only dug out 500. So this Yuan Qi stone vein must have some stones hidden deep, but overall, it probably only has about 1,000 stones. Yunfeng figured. 1,000 Yuan Qi stones was indeed low, not what you'd expect from a Yuan Qi stone vein. Yunfeng could only guess that the beast had eaten a bunch of them. That was the only explanation. If he knew Yi Tian had secretly dug up more than 2,000 Yuan Qi stones, he'd go ballistic. Yunfeng stopped mining and headed to the spatial rift. Yi Tian, meanwhile, had stopped treasure hunting with Xiao Zi and was also heading for the spatial rift. His harvest these past few days was even better than what he'd gotten from the Yuan Qi stone vein. With Xiao Zi's guidance and a natural treasure trove that was the secret realm, Yi Tian's treasure collecting speed was unbelievable. He'd found 50 medicinal herbs over 1,000 years old, and over 1,000 that were 100 years old, plus he'd found 3 treasures that could improve his cultivation talent, and 1 ice spirit grass that could boost his water or ice talent. Yu happened to have an ice talent, so it was perfect for her. I'm satisfied. Tian was willing to bet that no other martial artist entering the secret realm this time had gained as much as he had, not even lucky Yunfeng. Space cracks, exits, a steady stream of martial artists were rushing to this spot. Many didn't have storage bags and were carrying their loot in big sacks, which was pretty obvious, but there were too many martial artists around to risk robbing or fighting. Otherwise, there'd be trouble when they got out. Whoosh! Another martial artist emerged from the secret realm. Just then, Tian arrived. He slipped into the spatial crack and came out into the real world. Tian, over here, Yuling called out. Tian hurried over and boarded the Yu family's Wind Rider ship. How's the haul? Yuling asked curiously. Not bad, Tian said. Yuling's gaze landed on Xiaozi, and she was surprised. Is that a gold treasure mouse? Yuling asked, amazed. Yep, Tian answered. Yuling was knowledgeable. It wasn't unusual for her to recognize a gold treasure mouse, so he wasn't that surprised. Tian, do you know how rare gold treasure rats are? You actually got one. Yuling was envious. How rare? Tian was interested to know. They're worth 100 billion, and even at that price, you can't find anyone willing to sell. Because a gold treasure rat makes it so much easier to go treasure hunting. And your gold treasure rat must have eaten something that enhanced its bloodline talent. Its bloodline must be at least at a high level, making it even more valuable. People would pay 200 billion for it. Why don't you sell it to me? Yuling had stars in her eyes. Xiaozi overheard Tian and Yuling talking and started trembling. It said nervously, Master, please don't sell Xiaozi. Chapter 84. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tian patted Xiaozi's butt, reassuring her. Yuling, sorry, she's already bonded to me. Yuling smiled. You can break that bond. My family has ways to do it. As long as you're willing to sell, it's no problem. She clearly wasn't giving up on buying Xiaozi. Not for sale. Tian refused again. Was she kidding? 200 billion to buy Xiaozi. Forget everything else. The treasures Xiaozi found in the secret realm were worth way more than that. Take the Yuan Qi stones, for example. At $1 billion apiece, 2,200 stones come to 2.2 trillion. 200 billion is just pocket change compared to that. For Tian, 200 billion was nothing. Besides, Tian didn't think Xiaozi's worth was only 200 billion. Xiaozi's treasure hunting skills were top-notch. Most purple gold treasure rats only have basic or intermediate talent. One with basic talent and a good bloodline might fetch 200 billion, but Xiaozi, with her superior talent and bloodline, was priceless. He'd be crazy to sell her. He'd rather give her to his sister someday than let someone else get her cheap. Yuling, seeing he wasn't budging, finally dropped the idea of buying Xiaozi. Tian, be careful, she warned. Purple gold treasure rats are valuable. You might be safe here at Demon Sea Base, but if you leave, there'll be plenty of people trying to snatch her. I understand. Tian nodded, unconcerned. He'd just gotten his hands on a mountain of treasure, and he wouldn't be leaving Demon Sea Base anytime soon. Give him a little time, and he'd grow stronger than anyone could imagine. By the time he did leave, he'd be powerful enough to crush anyone who dared try to steal Xiaozi. Master, you're the best. You didn't sell Xiaozi. I'll work extra hard to earn you 200 billion in the future. Simple-minded Xiaozi only knew 200 billion was a huge number, not what it was actually worth, or that the treasures she found were worth far more. If she did, she'd give Yuling a piece of her mind. 200 billion to buy her. No way. The Yu family's martial arts masters trickled back, but by the time the spatial rift was closing, only 6 of them had returned, making 7 with Yuling. The Yu family lost most of their masters. Tian said grimly. Fortunately, the family's most talented geniuses had survived, so the loss wasn't a total disaster. Overhead, the spatial rift began to shrink rapidly. Even King Yunhe couldn't stop it unless he was willing to risk his life to keep it open for another month, but he wasn't going to do that. 1,000 masters went in, and less than 300 came out. Yuling sighed. Yi Tian said nothing but was struck by the cruelty of the secret realm. If it weren't for his top-tier healing and teleportation abilities, he'd have died in the jaws of some monster while frantically gathering treasure. It showed how dangerous it was for everyone else, and how lucky they were to be alive. If the masters back at the coastal base knew that 700 masters had died on one trip, they'd be speechless. Yi Tian thought, he wouldn't have believed a loss of 700 masters was even possible before he came to Demon Sea Base. Back in the coastal base, a single master was a big deal. Losing one would be huge news. Here at Demon Sea Base, masters were expendable. No one cared how many died, because another group would always rise to take their place. Let's go. Yu Ben saw the rift was completely closed and decided not to wait any longer. Even if there were still Yu family warriors alive in there, they wouldn't be able to get out until 10 years later. The wind boat rose into the air and headed back to Demon Sea Base. One by one, the other clan's boats followed suit. Soon, the vast mountain range was empty of humans, and the beasts reclaimed their territory. Back at the Yu family estate, the wind boat touched down and Yi Tian stepped onto solid ground. Yi Tian, you can keep the treasures you found in the secret realm. But if there's anything you don't need, can you trade it to the Wu Pavilion? Yuling asked. Sure. Yi Tian agreed. He'd been planning to trade some stuff anyway. He had so much that it had filled up his personal space and 2 storage bags. Come on, I'll take you to the Martial Pavilion. Yuling led Yi Tian out of the estate and toward the Martial Pavilion branch nearby. Soon, they arrived. This Martial Pavilion is huge. Yi Tian stared at the massive, ancient-style pavilion, 50 meters tall, and was secretly amazed. Compared to the Demon Sea Base's Martial Pavilion branch, the one back in the coastal base was a total dump. There are 10 Martial Pavilion branches like this one. The main headquarters is even more impressive, 100 meters high. Yuling explained. Inside the pavilion, Yuling personally arranged for Yi Tian to make his trade. She secured the services of an experienced appraiser to evaluate Yi Tian's treasures. Young master, if you would, please bring out the treasure. The appraiser said. Yi Tian opened the storage bag and started pulling out treasures one by one, soon piling them high on the appraisal table. Yuling's eyes widened as she stared at Yi Tian in disbelief. That was a lot of treasure, wasn't it? She quickly figured it out. She remembered Xiaozi. With a treasure-hunting pet like that in a natural treasure trove like the secret realm, finding all sorts of natural treasures was a piece of cake. Young master, are you really going to trade all of this to our Martial Pavilion? The appraiser asked emotionally. It was the largest order he'd handled in decades. Yes, sell it all, Yi Tian replied calmly. Despite the large quantity, these were only a tenth of his total hoard. They were also the treasures of relatively average value. He hadn't even brought out the really good stuff, because the value of the treasures was so high. Yuling called in several more appraisers, and even had a senior director of the Martial Pavilion come to personally evaluate Yi Tian's items. After half a day, the director announced, Young Master Yi Tian, the total value of these treasures is 321.4 billion. Our Martial Pavilion will purchase them for 325 billion. We'll also give you a VIP card, which will give you a 5% discount on all purchases you make here in the future. How does that sound? Sounds good. 325 billion it is. Yi Tian nodded, clearly satisfied. Chapter 85. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Leaving the Wu Pavilion branch, Yuling fixed her gaze on Yi Tian, her eyes sparkling. Yi Tian, you're rolling in dough now. 325 billion, even I want to knock you over and take it. Then you better start pumping iron. Yi Tian quipped. You're not ready to roll with me yet. Oh, so now you're busting my chops. Yuling teased, feigning indignation. they bantered back and forth for a few minutes before getting ready to split up. Before heading out, Yu Ling said, "Hey, now that you're loaded, you should know about the Martial Pavilion auction in about 10 days. I think you should definitely go. They usually have stuff you need. Since you haven't joined any faction yet, you basically gotta buy everything yourself." "Oh yeah? What kind of cool junk are they hawking?" Tian asked, now intrigued. He had the cash, but the real prize stuff never hit the open market. Take those storage bags for example. He asked around at the Martial Pavilion, but they were impossible to buy. A high-level Yuan force forging body technique. Yu Ling revealed. Seriously? They're auctioning that off. Tian's interest skyrocketed. He'd been at the Demon Sea base for a short time, and he'd already heard the buzz about the high-level Yuan force forging body techniques. But those were the core secrets of the big shots. Nobody just sells them. The only way to get one was to join a major faction and kiss the ring. He only had the intermediate technique, which Yu Ling had given him. It worked great, but once he hit the Grandmaster level, it wouldn't be worth a hill of beans. No boost at all. After that, the only way to level up was through the blood of alpha beasts. A Grandmaster with a high-level technique and one without were playing in totally different leagues. Tian had planned on figuring out how to get a high-level technique once he reached Grandmaster, but now it looked like an opportunity was dropping right in his lap. "Yu Ling, I'm in. No question." Tian confirmed. "Cool. I'll snag you an invitation in the next couple of days, and you can just show up when the time comes." Yu Ling offered. "Thanks a ton." Tian was genuinely grateful. Trying to score an invitation himself would have been a huge time sink. With that, they went their separate ways. Back at the homestead, it was evening. Yu had already clocked out from her martial arts classes. When she saw Tian walk in, she practically jumped out of her skin. "Bro! You're back." Yu squealed, running over, but she quickly got distracted by Xiaozi. "Whoa, what a cute little mouse. Did you get it for me?" Yiyu's eyes widened with excitement. You couldn't blame her. Xiaozi was irresistible, especially with that little golden streak right between its eyes. "Yep. A little something for you." Tian confirmed. When Tian handed Xiaozi over to Yiyu, Xiaozi was caught off guard. "Wait, what's happening? Who's this lady? Isn't it your pet, boss? Why is it going to her? You're not being sold. I'm just slammed all the time and can't take care of you like I want. This is my sister, Yiyu. If you hang with her, I think you'll have a blast. She'll definitely treat you right." Tian explained telepathically. "Okay, as long as I'm not being sold off. I'll do whatever you say." Xiaozi replied, relieved. With Xiaozi in the mix, Xiaojin's popularity tanked overnight. Yiyu used to play with Xiaojin all the time, but with Xiaozi around, Xiaojin was practically yesterday's news. Of course, Yiyu still had her training schedule, so she couldn't spend every waking moment with the pets. But the two critters hit it off. "Xiaozi, yo, I'm Xiaozi. What's your handle, big guy?" "Xiaojin, I'm Xiaojin. The boss gave me the name." "Xiaozi, so, what's your game? What are your skills?" "Xiaojin, I'm fast, and I'm super strong." Xiaozi, sounds kinda lame, tbh. You know what I can do? I got a nose for treasure. Nothing escapes my sight. If you're my wingman, I'll take you treasure hunting and we'll be rich. Xiaojin, hey, big bro. Xiaozi, I'm a chick, dude. Call me big sis. Xiaojin, got it, big sis. After a brief exchange, Xiaojin became Xiaozi's sidekick. And from that point on, Xiaozi didn't walk anywhere. She perched on Xiaojin's back and used him as a personal ride. Tian nearly split a gut watching it, seeing that Xiaojin, Xiaozi, and Yiyu were getting along like a house on fire. Tian didn't sweat it too much. For days after arriving back, Yu Ling's people dropped off the auction invitation. After stashing the invite, Tian was about to get back to training when he remembered that his copying ability was back online. Time to rip off Xiao Zi's treasure hunting skills, that he decided that power was way too good to pass up. Copy. Merge. The high-level treasure hunting talent didn't hurt as much as he expected. Just a little heat and a light sweat. 10 minutes later, the fusion was complete. Treasure hunt talent, advanced. Yi Tian beamed. He had to test this puppy out, 100-year-old ginseng, 1,000-year-old knotweed, and a vitality stone. Yi Tian lined up the goods and activated his newly acquired talent. Then, something unbelievable happened. Whoosh! 3 beams of light shot out from the 3 treasures. The ginseng glowed a pale white, the knotweed radiated a rich white, and the vitality stone pulsed with a faint red. Yi Tian took out a bunch more valuables and examined them one by one with his new treasure sense. He started to see a pattern. The color of the light was tied to the treasure's value, and he could categorize them into levels. White, red, and yellow were the 3 tiers from worst to best. Most of Yi Tian's stash gave off a white glow. The red ones were rarer, and the yellow ones were high-end stuff like heavenly soul flowers. As for anything beyond yellow, no clue. He also tried to see how far he could detect treasures. Turns out, the range was about 10 miles. As long as it was within 10 miles, he could sense the treasure and guess how valuable it was. He took a peek at all the shiny objects in his area. Too bad they were all owned by other people. And among them, nothing topped the yellow tier. Still got one more copy left. Time to hunt down an exceptional cultivation talent. Yi Tian thought, the best in the Demon Sea Great Base was the exceptional level training skill. So he could only copy that one and try to combine a bunch of them to rank it up. It's a gamble, but whatever. Let's snoop around the Yun family first. Yi Tian snuck out. Chapter 86. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Yun family's territory sprawled for miles, a veritable small kingdom packed with towering buildings. Their population was huge too, with the main family and its branches adding up to nearly 100,000 people, the very foundation of the Demon Sea Base's leading family. Yi Tian was checking out the Yun estate, hoping to copy a high-level cultivation talent. His talent copying ability had a range of about 500 meters. If Yun Tian came within that distance, he could snag his cultivation talent without anyone being the wiser, but Yi Tian was soon bummed out. He couldn't find a trace of Yun Tian, and didn't even spot any other top talents from the Yun family. They were obviously holed up deep within the compound. He'd have to either infiltrate the Yun family or wait for these martial artists to come out if he wanted a chance to copy them. He decided to give up on the Yuns. Yi Tian immediately went searching for other cultivation talents, but kept striking out. Even with a 500-meter range, it was useless if you couldn't find anyone. The auction's in a few days. Maybe I'll run into one then. Yi Tian had to pin his hopes on the auction. Before long, the auction day arrived. This auction, hosted by Wu Gu, wasn't some huge event. It was a regular monthly or bi-monthly thing, but it was still being held at Wu Gu headquarters, and plenty of people were showing up. Yi Tian headed out early in the morning, making his way to Wu Gu. Impressive. Yi Tian couldn't help but marvel at the 100-meter-high Martial Pavilion headquarters. The headquarters was crawling with manpower. The guards were almost all great warriors, and grandmasters were in charge of security, and that was just the outside. The security inside was probably even tougher, maybe even someone at the king level. The Wu Pavilion was run by the 3 big families, and the Yu family was one of the weakest of them. The Wu Pavilion also had king-level advisors, so it was normal to have a king-level presence. Not even a king would dare to cause trouble at the Martial Pavilion headquarters. Yi Tian went inside, showed his invitation, and was escorted by a female employee to the 5th floor. The auction was being held there. Stepping into the auction hall, Yi Tian found his seat. The venue wasn't what he'd expected. There were no private rooms, just a huge open space with chairs. The seats were spaced out enough to not feel too crowded. At least, the auction could probably hold about 1,000 people, but they weren't expecting that many. Time to copy. Yi Tian focused, and his copying talent swept across the whole hall. Almost instantly, everyone's talent info popped up. Some serious talent here. Yi Tian thought. The martial artists who showed up for auctions weren't small-time players. Their talents were bound to be impressive. The weakest ones had high-level cultivation talents, and plenty had top-tier ones, but Tian hadn't spotted any high-level talents yet. Expand. He expanded the range of his talent, encompassing the entire Martial Pavilion headquarters. Bingo. Tian was excited. On the 15th floor, the highest level, a talent profile popped into his sight. Name, Chan Yuan, cultivation talent, transcendental, gravity talent, elementary. And transcendental level talent. Probably a king-level powerhouse. Surname's Chang, doesn't sound like any of the three big families of the Martial Pavilion. Must be one of their advisors. Tian guessed. Without wasting a second, he copied the talent. But he didn't fuse it yet. This was an auction hall, and fusing would cause his body to react strangely. He'd have to wait until he got home. After waiting for about half an hour, the auction started. At first, the items weren't super valuable, but were very useful for great warriors, like treasures that could speed up cultivation by 2 or even 3 times. Unfortunately, their effects only lasted a month at most. Even with that short time limit, they still went for 1 or 2 billion. Tian wasn't lacking in treasures, so he didn't care about this stuff. He was after the advanced Yuan force forging body technique, but the auction hadn't gotten to that yet. Suddenly, an item that piqued his interest appeared. Next up is a king-level cultivation experience from the Hurricane King, who died in the Beast Tide 40 years ago. Starting bid is 5 billion. The auctioneer announced, Hurricane King. The name rang a bell. Even though it had been 40 years, the Hurricane King's story was still well known. A king-level cultivation experience was definitely valuable, but not many people were actually looking to buy it. Cultivation depended on talent and resources. How useful could some old cultivation experience really be? Maybe it'd be helpful for a newbie, but the people here were either high-level executives of major conglomerates, or core disciples or elders from big families. They could just check out their own family's scripture vaults and easily learn the secrets of cultivation. There was no need to waste money on some king-level experience. The others weren't interested, but Tian was. He'd been cultivating alone, fumbling in the dark. He barely had any idea about the realm's past grandmaster, and this experience would be super useful. 5.5 billion. Tian raised his bidding card. 6 billion. 7 billion. 8 billion. The competition wasn't fierce. In the end, the deep-pocketed Tian won with a bid of 11 billion. Many people looked at Tian with pity, thinking he'd overpaid. 10 billion. That wasn't pocket change. That was real money. A heavenly soul flower, which could actually improve talent, only cost 10 billion. Of course, the heavenly soul flower might only be worth that much, but nobody was selling one. The auction continued. Good stuff kept being auctioned off. There was even a treasure that could improve talent, but not cultivation talent. It was for fire-type talent, called the Crimson Flame Spirit Mushroom. The Crimson Flame Spirit Mushroom only worked on primary flame talents, and there was no guarantee it would even work. So, it wasn't too expensive, only 12 billion. There's some good stuff here. You can't buy this stuff outside. You can only find it here. Tian thought. After a long wait, the advanced Yuan force forging body technique he'd been waiting for finally came up. An advanced Yuan force forging body technique from the Zhonghai Super Base, the purple blood body forging technique. Don't worry about its origins. The Martial Pavilion guarantees there are absolutely no issues. Starting bid, 30 billion, the auctioneer announced. Chapter 87. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's only 30 billion. That's a steal. A top-tier Yuan force forging technique can build a whole dynasty. A grandmaster voiced his suspicion. Other martial artists at the auction shared his curiosity. The Demon Sea Great Base didn't have many powerful families precisely because access to high-level Yuan force forging techniques was so tightly controlled. Everyone had access to the intermediate-level techniques, and while there were many advanced techniques, they were all unique and incredibly complex. But a high-level technique that could turn a nobody family into a major power, that's why they were so prized. A starting bid of 30 billion felt ridiculously low, almost too good to be true. Seeing the skepticism, the auctioneer clarified, "Folks, this high-level technique is the real deal. However, it comes with a catch. It's recorded in inheritance beads with a soul formation woven into it. To learn it, you have to swear an oath to only practice it yourself. This significantly lowers its value, hence the starting price of 30 billion, which was carefully considered by the Marshall Pavilion." "Ah, I see," muttered several people, losing interest. Many attendees were members of established factions, with their own ways of acquiring advanced yuan force forging techniques. Even if they had to swear not to teach them, why pay so much for this purple blood body forging technique when they could get something similar for free? But lone wolves like Tian were buzzing with excitement, eyes locked on the prize. There were several grandmaster-level martial artists vying for it. Looks like I've got some competition. Tian thought, noting the intensity in their eyes, but he was determined to win. He was confident he could outspend any ordinary grandmaster. Purple blood body forging technique, super base, Zhonghai super base. So there's an even bigger base out there. Yi Tian was intrigued by the mention of a super base. He wondered where these yuan force forging methods and advanced techniques even came from. Initially, he assumed the big bases developed them, but now he suspected they came from these super bases. Unfortunately, his status wasn't high enough to know anything beyond the name Zhonghai super base. How much has China grown? How many big bases, how many super bases are there? How big is the entire Earth now? These questions swirled in his mind, waiting to be answered in the future. 35 billion. 38 billion. 40 billion, that the bidding was dominated by grandmasters. They had ways to accumulate wealth that were unimaginable to lesser martial artists. Tens of billions were nothing to them. Opportunities to acquire high-level yuan force forging techniques were rare, and some grandmasters were unwilling to pledge allegiance to established factions, so they weren't about to let this chance slip by. 80 billion, an eye-popping bid silenced much of the room. Only a few remained in the contest. The price had simply become too exorbitant. While grandmasters could be wealthy, they also needed vast resources for their own cultivation. Only the top grandmasters had assets exceeding 100 billion. Those individuals likely already possessed high-level yuan force forging techniques. The ones interested in buying them now were mostly ordinary grandmasters who didn't have such deep pockets, so, after 80 billion, most were priced out. Then Yi Tian stepped in. 100 billion, his bid crushed the remaining grandmasters' hopes. Swish, every eye in the room turned to him. He's the one who dropped 11 billion on that king-level cultivation experience. Now he's throwing down 100 billion for this technique. How much money does he have? Grandmasters muttered jealously. Could he be the son of a big shot? Someone whispered. Probably. Someone who can cough up over 100 billion at such a young age must be a king's heir. I envy those trust fund kids. Born with everything handed to them. Unlike us, who have to fight tooth and nail. A grandmaster grumbled. If they only knew Yi Tian's real identity, not some pampered rich kid, they'd be shocked. 100 billion was a staggering sum, and the other grandmasters glanced at each other, reluctantly bowing out. And just like that, Yi Tian won the purple blood body forging technique, a top-tier advanced yuan force body forging technique, for the princely sum of 100 billion. The main goal of his attendance at the auction was complete, but the auction wasn't over. As precious as the purple blood body forging technique was, it wasn't the grand finale item. Soon, the real treasures were unveiled. Dragon blood vine juice. The ultimate aid for great martial artists attempting to reach the grandmaster realm. Starting price, 10 billion, the auctioneer announced. Instantly, the gaze of the great martial artists turned to a small bottle of crimson juice on the table. Yellow treasure. Yi Tian activated his treasure hunting talent. The yellow light emanating from the dragon blood vine juice confirmed its treasure level. From the surrounding conversations, he also learned its purpose. It was an extract that could aid great martial artists in refining their meridians. The Grandmaster realm was all about meridian refinement, so, if a great martial artist wanted to ascend to Grandmaster level, this was the juice they needed. Top-tier talents could refine their meridians with relative ease, but it was much harder for high-level talents. Their success rate was abysmally low. Failure to refine the meridians could result in permanent damage, crippling their foundation and making it almost impossible to ever reach Grandmaster status. This was the sad reality for high-level talents, but with dragon blood vine juice, the odds increased by at least 30%. It was a godsend for great martial artists with high-level talents, besides, which Grandmaster here didn't have descendants with high-level cultivation talent. Cultivation treasures were the most sought-after items in this era. Manuals, weapons, and even experience paled in comparison, especially treasures like this that could break bottlenecks. Their value was astronomical. Amidst fierce bidding, the dragon blood vine juice was sold for a staggering 60 billion to a Grandmaster. One by one, similar treasures appeared, sending the auction hall into a frenzy. However, Tian remained on the sidelines. These items were useless to him. Then, suddenly, a unique item was presented. Tian tried using his treasure hunting talent, but it failed. The Wu Pavilion must have some way of blocking any attempts at scanning. His talent wasn't all powerful. He couldn't, for instance, scan the Wu Pavilion's vault. It was heavily shielded to prevent such snooping. Otherwise, their secrets would have been exposed long ago, ruining their business. The auctioneer gestured towards the covered treasure and said, "This item is rather special. Even the Wu Pavilion hasn't been able to identify it. However, it was submitted by an external party, so we're putting it up for auction with a preliminary price of 1 billion, that the warriors buzzed with curiosity. Tian felt a stir of interest. He wondered what this mysterious treasure could be. Chapter 88. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What's so mysterious about this treasure? Someone asked. Unable to contain their curiosity, the auctioneer dramatically unveiled a large, formation-covered box, easily taller than a person. Inside, nestled securely, was a giant, golden egg. The faint, rhythmic pulse emanating from it confirmed it wasn't just a lump of gold. A beast egg? Someone questioned, puzzled. But why all the secrecy? And if it's a beast egg, shouldn't it be identifiable? That the auctioneer explained, it is an egg, but it lacks the characteristic aura of any known beast. Moreover, the shell is incredibly tough. Even a Grandmaster-level expert couldn't crack it, and a king-level psychic couldn't penetrate it. Had it not been consigned by another party, we would have thoroughly investigated it. Since we can't identify it or provide incubation instructions, we can't offer guarantees. Thus, despite its potential value, the starting bid is 1 billion. Could it be the egg of some super-powerful creature? Someone speculated. Imagine the payoff if it hatches, another voice countered, or maybe it's just a fancy, life-infused metal. Who knows? An unhatchable egg is just a paperweight. Humph, regardless, it's worth something. 1 billion is a steal. Alright, let the bidding begin. That the price quickly escalated from 1 billion and climbed steadily. Tian, meanwhile, remained fixated on the egg. To his treasure-hunting senses, it radiated a golden glow, practically a divine beacon. This was no ordinary object. Copy talent. Tian cautiously used his skill, hoping to glean its potential if it was, indeed, a beast egg. A line of text materialized in his vision, confirming his suspicion. Species, battle blood dragon, bloodline talent. Strength talent. Flying talent. Speed talent. Defense talent. The sheer volume of talents stunned Tian. This wasn't just a beast, it was a dragon. A legendary dragon egg, and these clueless folks are auctioning it off. Tian muttered, a hint of disdain in his voice. Of course, he conveniently forgot that without his talent, he'd be just as clueless. Why can't I see the talent levels? Is it too high? He wondered. He quickly dismissed the idea. The sheer number of talents argued against an across-the-board too high explanation. If these talents truly exceeded his copy talents limits, the battle blood dragon would be practically a god, capable of shattering the earth with a sneeze. Tian concluded there was only one explanation: the dragon wasn't fully formed. Its talents hadn't solidified, which would only occur at birth. I have to have it. A dragon with unlimited potential is far superior to Xiao Jin and Xiao Zinyo. I was planning on giving Xiao Jin and Xiao Zi to my sister as pets. If I'm getting a pet, it has to be top tier. And nothing beats a dragon, especially one you can ride. Smitten, Tian threw himself into the auction, despite the steep price, which quickly reached 10 billion, deep-pocketed bidders didn't flinch. 20 billion. 30 billion. 40 billion. 50 billion. Eventually, only top-tier grandmasters remained, with Tian, a mere great martial artist, uncomfortably sandwiched between them. 80 billion. Tian shouted a desperate bid. Some grandmasters frowned, calculating the egg's worth. They had other targets in mind, and overspending on this gamble could jeopardize their chances later. One by one, they dropped out, leaving Tian victorious. He refrained from bidding on subsequent treasures. Not due to lack of funds, but because those items, primarily cultivation aids for grandmasters, held little appeal. The auction culminated in a frenzy over a treasure rumored to improve a grandmaster's chances of reaching king level, albeit by a mere 0.5%. It sold for a staggering trillion, leaving everyone speechless. After the auction, Tian claimed his winnings, settled the bill, and departed. Leaving the Wuga headquarters, he became aware of several individuals tailing him. Using his spatial perception, Tian lured them to a deserted alley, then teleported away, shaking them off. Back home, Tian unpacked his haul. The dragon egg, naturally, took center stage. But after a cursory inspection yielded nothing, he set it aside for later study. King-level cultivation experience. He reverently retrieved the thick scroll, crafted from the tough hide of a formidable beast. The manual detailed a path from martial apprentice to king level, outlining precautions and offering guidance at each stage, including methods to overcome bottlenecks. Most intriguing were the sections on achieving grandmaster and king level status. To reach grandmaster, one must cultivate to the absolute limit of a great martial artist. The stronger the foundation, the higher the success rate. A weak foundation, even with transcendent talent, may facilitate reaching grandmaster but will drastically reduce the chances of becoming king. A transcendent level talent should guarantee king level status, but nearly all with transcendent talent fail to forge a perfect foundation, resulting in only an 80% success rate. This imperfect foundation will hinder advancement to higher realms. Tian gaped at the passage. Even those with transcendent talent couldn't build a perfect foundation. He scanned further, finally locating the secret to achieving perfection. A perfect foundation must be laid before becoming a grandmaster. Once the grandmaster realm is attained, the foundation's embryo is set. A flawed embryo precludes a perfect foundation. Pushing the limits. The concept was new to Tian. But coming from the king-level Hurricane King, it held weight. Tian felt a surge of gratitude for discovering this manual. Without it, he might have rushed into Grandmaster, crippling his potential. It was a mistake he would have regretted for life. Chapter 89. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay, but how do you actually break the limit? Tian frowned, because forging a perfect foundation was his goal too. But even the Hurricane King admitted it was incredibly difficult, even for a transcendent level cultivator. As far as he knew, nobody in the Demon Sea base had ever pulled it off, maybe in the super bases, but even there, it had to be rare. Tian kept reading. The Hurricane King offered a few potential paths forward. First, you could use every kind of rare and precious resource imaginable to push past the limits. But that's ridiculously expensive. Even a king-level cultivator wouldn't want to invest that much just to create one genius with a perfect foundation. Second, you could leverage natural talent to break the limit. Refining your skin corresponds to defense, refining your muscles to strength, your bones to bone density, and blood exchange to bloodline abilities. Internal organs are trickier. since it's hard to find a directly corresponding talent. But you could use intense gravity to stress your internal organs, forcing them to break down and rebuild stronger. Of course, you'd need powerful healing drugs to survive the process. Tian's face lit up. For most people, the first option would be impractical, and the second would be nearly impossible. Who has all those talents? But Tian was different. He could copy talents. Lots and lots of them, so he could actually try option 2. Option 1 was out of reach, and the scroll explained how to use talent to break the limit. 10 years ago, a genius with a top-tier blood-burning talent unlocked it during cultivation and quickly pushed past the limit of blood exchange, making their blood even more potent. We can assume the same is true for other talents. Unlock a top-tier defense talent while refining your skin, and you should be able to break the skin refining limit. Tian understood perfectly, but he couldn't try it yet. He didn't have a top-tier defense, strength, or bone talent, or even a strong bloodline talent. Gathering those 4 talents wouldn't be easy. And if he failed to break the skin, muscle, bone, and blood exchange limits, he'd never be able to push past the limits of his internal organs without risking total organ failure. Only after breaking the other limits, making the internal organs his only real weakness, could he try training in extreme gravity. That was the smartest plan. Looks like I need to find top-tier defense, strength, bone, and bloodline talents, ASAP. Tian decided he could copy talents twice a month. With a little luck, he could gather the right abilities and build a perfect foundation within a year or 2. The most achievable goal right now was the top-tier strength talent. His current strength talent was already pretty good. If he combined it with 2 more high-level strength talents, he might just be able to create a top-tier version. First, I need to focus on cultivation. As my strength improves, I'll be able to find even more talents. With renewed resolve, Tian pulled out the inheritance bead containing the purple blood body forging technique. This was a high-level yuan force forging technique. Replacing his intermediate technique with it would significantly increase his cultivation speed. He poured his spiritual power into the bead, swore his oath, and read through the technique's contents. The bead shattered. The purple blood body forging technique isn't one complete routine. It's a collection of actions tailored to different stages of cultivation. Tian was surprised. Purple blood skin forging. Purple blood muscle forging. Purple blood bone forging. Purple blood blood forging. Purple blood organ forging. Purple blood pulse forging. Each technique targeted a specific area, making them much more precise and effective than his old intermediate-level technique. Tian started again with the purple blood skin forging. He found he could improve his skin even further. But after a few repetitions, it stopped responding. He'd truly reached the limit. Without breaking through, he couldn't improve anymore. Then, he practiced muscle, bone, and blood forging, solidifying his foundation. Finally, Tian started the purple blood organ forging technique. This involved a series of movements designed to create a concussive force, shaking and refining the internal organs, accelerating their strengthening. After testing it, Tian found the purple blood organ forging technique was twice as effective as his old method. My physical strength is already at 300,000 pounds. With a supply of high-level beast blood, the purple blood forging technique, and my transcendent level talent, I can reach the limit of a great martial artist in less than 2 months. Tian estimated. For the next month, Tian focused solely on cultivation. A month later, his cultivation had skyrocketed, and his physical strength reached 680,000 pounds. With his copying talent refreshed, Tian searched the Demon Sea base and found a high-level defense talent. He copied it not from a human, but from a genius's pet. He also found a high-level Vajra bone talent, copying it from a fierce beast called Vajraman. Vajra was similar to defense but focused specifically on bones. Activating the Vajra bone talent made his bones incredibly strong. He could pierce steel with his fingers. Even if someone broke through his skin defense, the Vajra bones would act as a secondary layer of protection. This talent wouldn't directly improve his combat power, but building a perfect foundation was the priority. If he found more high-level Vajra bone talents, he could potentially create a top-tier version. After copying the 2 talents, Tian returned to training. Another month passed, and Tian's physical strength reached the great martial artist limit, 1,000,000 pounds. He was now far stronger than he had been 2 months ago. 1,000,000 pounds is the power of 1 elephant. 2 elephants when amplified by Yuan force. 20 elephants with my high-level strength talent. And Qingfeng / multiplies that by 6, for a total of 120 elephants. Tian calculated his attack power and was shocked, a great martial artist with the power of 120 elephants. Unbelievable, his speed had also drastically improved, now reaching an astounding 120 times the speed of sound. Most great martial artists could only reach 6 times the speed of sound. But with his top-tier speed talent multiplying it by 20, he was hitting 120. Tian figured even peak grandmasters were only a few dozen times the speed of sound. He was second only to the king-level cultivators. I've reached the limit of a great martial artist. It's time to break through. Tian felt a surge of determination and excitement. Chapter 90. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Skin refining was the first hurdle, so Tian planned to copy and fuse a top-tier defense talent. Finding humans with those talents was tough. Demon Sea Base hadn't identified anyone with high or top-level defense capabilities. The best they had was medium, but plenty of fierce beasts boasted high-level and top-level defenses, so, if Tian wanted to copy a high-level or top-level defense talent, he'd have to target the beasts. I got lucky last time finding a beast with a high defense. Can't count on that continuing. And it's impossible to gather 4 top-tier talents just hanging around Demon Sea Base. I need to head into the wild. He pondered. His original plan was to venture out after becoming a grandmaster, but to break his physical limits and build a perfect foundation, he had to leave the base now. Luckily, Demon Sea Base knew way more about fierce beasts than Linhai Base did. They kept records of everything, beasts with defense, strength, Vajrabone, and bloodline talents. Lots of variety. Tian bought the info and prepared to leave Demon Sea Base soon. Before taking off, Tian told Xiaozi and Xiaojin, "You two need to protect Xiaoyu." Got it? That they nodded, remembering his instructions. With those 2 guarding his sister, he felt much better. Xiaozi had broken through to top-tier beast level. She'd been stuck in the secret realm due to the rules, but once she left, she easily leveled up. Xiaojin was at the limit of high-level beasts, plus his top speed talent rivaled only the speed of kings. Together, Xiaojin and Xiaozi could take down ordinary grandmasters, which was more than enough to protect Yu. Besides, Demon Sea Base was pretty safe. No one would dare cause trouble. So he wasn't too worried about his sister. That day, Tian left Demon Sea Base. As he passed through the formation light gate and into the wild, 5 grandmasters followed him, keeping their distance. 5 little mice, huh? Tian sensed them with his spatial perception and smirked. He'd known someone would tail him. Spending 190 billion at the Martial Pavilion auction had drawn a lot of attention. He'd shaken off his follower at the time, but a little digging would reveal his identity. Someone must have checked me out, realized I'm a nobody, and that I made a fortune in the secret realm. I'm a juicy target, so they want to hunt me down in the wild. Tian figured, those 5 grandmasters were definitely trying to intercept him. Any other martial artist would be screwed facing that kind of heat, but Tian wasn't worried. He could teleport or use 120x sonic speed to ditch them, but that would expose his top speed or spatial talent. The other option was to just kill them and be done with it. After a second of thought, Tian made his decision. Then I'll kill them, he muttered. The 5 grandmasters didn't want to make a move near Demon Sea Base, fearing complications, and Tian didn't want to fight there either, in case their backers got involved. Both sides had the same idea, gradually moving farther from the base. This is a good spot. Tian stopped in a forest, the Sea of Clouds forest. It was even bigger than Little Thousand Leaves forest, full of top-tier beasts, even some at the king level. He'd deal with the 5 rats before venturing into Yunhai forest. Let them die here. Soon, the 5 grandmasters arrived. Go, but they moved fast, not wanting to waste time. Boom. 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 5 powerful forces shook the earth, unleashing monstrous momentum. They were fast, almost 20 times the speed of sound, way faster than great martial artists. Against such an attack, only Yun Feng, Demon Sea Base's top combat genius, could put up a fight, but Yi Tian was a combat genius on a whole different level. Insects. Yi Tian groaned and struck instantly. At 120 times the speed of sound, he unleashed Shadow Kill. Puff. Puff. Heads flew. Yi Tian easily killed the 5 grandmasters like they were regular guys. Their headless corpses hit the ground with a thud. 5 storage bags. Nice, I can carry more stuff. Yi Tian grabbed the bags and darted into Yunhai Forest. Half a day later, a middle-aged man arrived. He searched around and quickly found the bodies. Killed in a second, 5 grandmasters taken out with 1 sword. Was that a top grandmaster? The man was shocked. He was a top grandmaster himself, so he knew how terrifying they were. These 5 were just ordinary grandmasters, only a little stronger than those who had just broken through. Against a top grandmaster, they wouldn't stand a chance. Damn it. I thought 5 grandmasters could easily take out 1 martial artist, but they got killed instead. Does that kid have a top grandmaster secretly protecting him? The man regretted it. He should have handled it himself. Now, he'd lost 5 subordinates, and hadn't gotten anything out of it. He glanced at Yunhai Forest, sighed, and gave up chasing Yi Tian. It was too late, he couldn't find him now. He'd only found the bodies because of their watch locations. As for finding Yi Tian, he had no choice but to give up. After burying the bodies, the man left. Inside the Sea of Clouds forest, Yi Tian searched for a long time, finding plenty of fierce beasts but no high or top-level defense talents. But according to the info, Yunhai Forest had all sorts of beasts. He should be able to find what he needed here. His spatial perception spread, covering everything within 5,000 meters. That kind of range was because Yi Tian's cultivation had reached the limit of a great martial artist. He was much stronger than before. 5 days passed in a blink. Just as Yi Tian started to worry, a target appeared. Black Armored Bear. Yi Tian spotted it over 4,000 meters away and smiled. According to the intel, the Black Armored Bear probably had a high defense talent and a high strength talent. It was a high-level beast, practically the king of high-level beasts. If it weren't for the speed of top-level beasts, it could beat most of them. That's the one. Yi Tian chased after it. He needed to get within 600 meters to copy it, and even as he improved, that range would only increase by 100 meters. He was stuck with it.